Hello everybody, welcome back once again. I've got another Clair Obscur Expedition 33 video for you here. This time we are going to be breaking down all of the Pictos that are available in Act 3. Starting with the stuff on the world map or the continent. And also I'll say that, generally everything is kind of available during Act 3. And you can kind of do things in whatever order that you want. Because of course there isn't anything that's going to be locked behind, some sort of storyline event. So I guess just keep that in mind. But the first one that's available here I've got as the Shielding Tint. So this one's very strange. It's only a level 9 Pictos. That just seems very strange for me for a Act 3 Pictos. But anyways, it's found on the world map or the continent, south of the Stone Quarry. And that's near the Benisur, Bergen, and Orphalin battle. I kind of like this in a way, mostly because I like shields in this game. But it says healing tints also add 2 shields. Now, I think that maybe this makes a bit of sense on somebody that you're going to be doing a lot of healing with, like Lune, for instance. But I really don't like the 10 Lumina point cost on this one. I definitely feel like that is too expensive for what you get out of it. But of course, if you do take a little bit of damage and need to heal somebody up, adding the 2 shields is definitely a good thing. Next up is going to be effective support. So let's go up here and find this one. Here we are. So this is found on the world map northeast of Serene. It says plus 2 AP on using an item. So actually this could kind of work well there with Shielding Tint, right? Get yourself a little bit of extra AP here when, using, in that instance, it would be a Healing Tint, of course. 5 Lumina point cost on this isn't too bad. But honestly, I don't think that, I've never really used this. I have this only equipped right now on CL because I haven't actually learned it yet, but I just don't really use items that often in battle. Pretty much at all, but that's also because of the way I play, of course. I like to do full parry runs, so I don't get a whole lot of use out of something like this. But yeah, that I suppose could be good, and I would say maybe better for somebody who is using a lot of items like Lune, right, of course, because she makes a pretty good healer. Next up is going to be Breaking Slow. So that one is here at it's going to be a level 15 Pictos. This is located on the world map west of Spring Meadows, and of course it requires the Paint Break ability. But it says 25% increased break damage against slowed enemies. Again, I don't find this one to be that useful either. It's at least, only a 5 Lumina point cost here. I do like the stats, though, of course, speed and crit rate, though. That said, both of those stats are pretty low because this is, of course, only a level 15 Pictos. But I just generally don't find this one to be that useful because I don't really break things that often. That's kind of been one of the issues that I've got actually with this game. And actually, there are a lot of Pictos, related to breaking things. But in my opinion, it just doesn't happen that often, right? There are certainly some areas of the game, where you may do that a little bit more, and especially maybe like if your damage is really low or something. But I will say the last time that I played, I did an expert run, and didn't upgrade any of my weapons. So that's not to say that I used the lowest level weapon at all times, certainly, but even with kind of just going through the game like that and not actually upgrading anything, I didn't have any issues with dealing damage, and certainly with getting things broken here or there. I don't think that you break enough in this game to make something like this worthwhile. But next up is Energizing Shell. Let's find this thing. Oops, this is empowering. Alright, so here we are at Energizing Shell. This thing is located on the world map east of the Stone Wave Cliffs Cave. This requires Paint Break as well. It says give 2 AP on applying Shell. Now, I again, because of the way that I play with, basically pairing everything, I don't find shell useful really at all. So I just don't get any use out of this either. I also don't like the Lumina point cost, right? 10 seems like way too much for something like this. Maybe I could justify like a 5, but this is just too much in my opinion. Also, don't love the stats, although it does have speed on it, but defense is a bit low. But of course, this is only a level 15 Pictos, so. All right, next up is going to be Longer Rush. I actually do think this one is fairly good. Rush is pretty decent, or a decent status effect, because of course it's going to get your turn to come up more often. It says on applying Rush, its duration is increased by 2. So that is very good. It's an okay Lumina point cost as well. It does seem a little bit high, but that's kind of... It's almost always my criticism of the Lumina point cost, so maybe that's more an issue that I've got than anything else. But 10 Lumina points on this one. 778 health and 154 speed. I do like the speed, the health not so much, again, as someone who tries to parry everything anyway, but I do like this one, right? Rush is already a fairly good status effect, and increasing the duration can be nice. Of course, though, that's going to be more useful on boss battles, right? Something that where you're either going to be applying Rush once and trying to destroy whatever you're destroying in whatever, it's probably like 5 turns, right? But of course, it can be nice though too, even if your battle is lasting longer than that. But of course, you would have to reapply Rush in some way. So, but pretty good Pictos. Next up is going to be Empowering Dodge. I don't get any use out of this because I don't dodge, but it can be good. Oops, here we are. Here's Empowering Dodge. Again, I don't get any use out of this just because I don't dodge. But if you do dodge, right, because of course dodging is easier than parrying, you can get some use out of this. And honestly, I like the Lumina point cost, only 5. So I can definitely get behind that. But it says 5% increased damage for each consecutive successful dodge, can stack up to 10 times. So that's up to, of course, a 50% increase in damage for you. That's a lot of dodges, though, right? So that's going to take a bit to actually ramp up. But I do like the stats, of course, also that being speed and crit. So pretty good Pictos if you are dodging. Next up is going to be Sniper. Sniper is located on the world map south of Frozen Hearts. There's an Echesier, Stalact, and Glaze battle. Oops, did I go past it? I sure did. Let me, we'll go up to the, or maybe I didn't. No, I bet I didn't. God, there's just so many Pictos now. All right, here we are. Really great stats on this one, too. 552 speed and a 13% crit rate for a level 23 Pictos. It says, so the first free aim shot each turn deals 200% increased damage and can break. That is really, really good. You just get so much out of this, right? A 200% increase on damage. That's really good. Even if you just want to use, one sniper shot and then either save the rest of your AP for skills or whatever, that is huge, right? So a little bit expensive on the Lumina point cost, though, at a 15. I would have liked to see maybe a 10 for that, but this one is very, very good, especially if you're going to be using free aim shots a lot. Typically, when I'm using free aim shots, it's for random encounters, so I do get quite a bit of use out of this Pictos. And again, stats are really, really good on this. Great combination of stats that I really like. Next up is going to be Longer Burn. Let's get down here. Yeah, there is just so many Pictos. Here we are, Longer Burn. So Longer Burn, there's actually 2 of them, or this is one that actually upgrades in Act 3 as well, but you get it, the 27 version, on the world map southeast of the fountain from the Chromatic Aberration battle, and then of course the level 28 upgrade is found within the Flying Manor from the Gestural Merchant Fusoka. Not as big on the stats here with health and defense. Of course, I prefer speed and crit, but that's fine. But the burden duration is increased by 2. That can be good for, of course, longer battles. Not going to be that useful for like random encounters, I would say, but certainly boss battles, this can be pretty good. 15 Lumina point cost, though. Really, really think that's a bit too high, but fine. You know, it is what it is. So next up is going to be Anti-Stun. Anti-Stun is located on the world map, southeast corner. That's the chromatic tank battle. Stats here, health and defense, not wild about that, but fine. But a very cheap cost here, only 5 Lumina points for immunity to stun. I really like that. I think that, you know, a lot of things can stun you, and boy, when you get stunned, it's really easy to just get completely boned because, of course, then you can't parry or dodge while you are affected by stun. So this thing is a very, very good Pictos, at least for the effect. And again, a 5 Lumina point cost. Really like that. Next up is Breaking Death. Right, there we are. So Breaking Death is a level 29 Pictos. World map east of Stonewave Cliffs Cave. And that's the Thunder Avec battle. Great stats here. 586 speed, 33% crit rate. Really like that. Fully charge an enemy's break bar on death. You know, again, as someone who enjoys parrying and tries to not die, I don't find the ability here to be good at all. But only a 5 Lumina point cost. That's fine. I think actually that's pretty good. But again, kind of like prepare, you know, expecting to die. Although I guess I could say that you know, there's a way to you know, kind of predict that, right? Of course, you could use a death bomb combo on an enemy, especially again during a boss fight. This could be very, very good, right? Of course, filling up that break gauge immediately, you know, would be very, very good and probably worth it, right? And again, especially with that death bomb, you know, kind of combo, could really be good. But again, love the speed and crit rate off of that as well. Next up is Energy Master. This thing is one of the best Pictos in the entire game. If I can find it. Did I go past it? I must have. There it is. There it is. Energy Master. All right, so this is the world map, kind of west of the White Sands, of course, up in the air, the Serpent Fair battle. Every AP gain is increased by 1. That is so good. So anytime that you're getting AP from a source, you're going to increase that, of course, by 1. Obviously, it's going to keep you with you know, all of the AP that you need for using your skills. Of course, an extremely high Lumina point cost of 40. So very, very steep cost, but this one is incredible. I think that's probably worth it, to be completely honest, though. Just because of the, you know, obviously the increased damage that you can get because, of course, you're going to be able to use your skills much more frequently here. The stats, though, 4,970 health, that can be good, especially when you're using other Pictos like Survivor, for instance. That can be very, 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 very good. So, but yeah, very, very good Pictos here. And then the last one here I've got for kind of like the world map area, or at least it's related to the world map, and that is going to be Pro Retreat. So this is by finding all of the lost Gestrels, right? So that's why I kind of have this related to the world map. Of course, though, once you've found all of the lost Gestrels, though, you'll want to go back to camp, speak to Sastro, and he will give you the Pro Retreat Pictos. Now, I'll be honest, I don't like this at all. Allows flee to be instantaneous. I barely ever flee from anything in this game, so I don't think that this is that useful. Interesting combination of stats, though, because in Act 3, it's fairly easy to get like 100% crit rate with only 2 Pictos. And so a gigantic health increase as well as a pretty good speed increase would be very nice. So the Pictos itself, in terms of stats, is pretty good. But 40 Lumina point cost for allowing flee to be instantaneous, that's just not good. And, of course, not worth it at all. That's like a 1 Lumina point cost, in my opinion, right? Like, this should have been basically 1 because it's just not very good, right, and not useful. So Don't love that. Anyways, next up is going to be Shortcut. So Shortcut is the first of the set of Pictos that are located in Lumiere from the Aberration battle. The initial Shortcut is only a level 16, but the level 31 version is found within Renoir's drafts, also from the Aberration battle there. But anyways, amazing stats here. I love this. 672 speed. Of course, though, again, this is the level 31 version, so the level 16 version is going to be much lower stats, but also a 36% crit rate. Immediately play when falling below 30% health once per battle. Now, again, as someone who parries basically all the time, I don't find this useful. And on top of that, it's just very easy to get the cheater Pictos in Act 3. So, which of course then, allows you to play 2 turns anyway. So, the bonus here wouldn't be useful at all. So, again, great stats, but the effect is definitely, I would say, lacking. Though it does have only a 5, Lumina point cost, so I can appreciate that. But anyways, all right. So next up for the Lumiere Pictos is going to be Energizing Powerful. Right. Let me see here. Cleanse, Heal, Pain. There's Powerful. So it says, also I should say, again, just located in Lumiere. This must be just found on the ground because I don't have any sort of details for its location. But anyways, give 2 AP on applying Powerful. That can be useful for certain characters, of course, like CL, for instance. Also, sort of, Verso, right? He does have the Powerful buff that he can just use, but generally, I think, especially in the case of Verso, his turns are more useful doing other things. So, definitely not something that I would really ever, put on him, but 10 Lumina point cost, that's okay, but not big on that. But also, giving 2 AP on applying power. So my guess would that would apply to like SOS Powerful as well, although I've never actually tried that myself. Again, as someone who parries, I'm not getting any use out of those SOS type Pictos. But defense and speed combination, don't love that, right? I can get behind the speed, but defense is not really useful to me either. But that is Energizing Powerful. Next up is going to be Charging Stun. So here's Charging Stun here, also located in Lumiere. 922 health, 182 speed. Not big on that combination. 5% of a gradient charge on hitting a stunned enemy. I mean, the use case for this is so thin. For one thing, stunning, of course, that's going to be after you've broken an enemy, but that's only really going to probably this is only going to be useful like for maybe like 1 turn, right? Because okay, great, you've got the thing stunned, and unless you're using I guess Verso has a way to keep things stunned a little bit longer, but also only 5% of a gradient charge. I don't think that this is useful. At least I never found this useful. And then, I mean, at the very least, though, the 5 Lumina point cost, that's not too bad. But honestly, for the usefulness of here, I would have put that at like a 1 Lumina point cost, because it's just, again, the use case for this is so thin. Next up, though, is going to be Healing Stun. So let's find this. All right, so here we are. Health, speed combo, again, not great. Speed, I like. The health, not so much usually. But recover 5% health on hitting a stun target. Again, same thing as actually on Charging Stun there. Things are just not stunned that often in battle. So I don't find this to be very useful. Also, only recovering 5% health seems pretty weak. And then a 10 Lumina point cost on this, I'm giving that a no. Next up is going to be Full Strength. I actually really like this one. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Full Strength, there we are. Bad combination in terms of stats, but 25% increased damage on full health. So this is kind of like the opposite of At Death's Door. Unfortunately, a significant damage reduction though between the two, which you're only getting half of the benefit out of full strength as opposed to the 50% increased damage for at death's door. But quite a bit easier to be running around at full health as opposed to whatever it is below 10% or whatever that is for at death's door. So 15 Lumina point cost, that's okay. It seems a little bit high, but for something that's giving you a 25% increased damage, potentially for full battles, that's not too bad, right? Of course, it's not a buff like Inverted Affinity, only giving you a 50% chance for 3 turns essentially. So again, potentially getting more use out of something like this if the battle lasts longer. But I do like this one. And for most characters, it's a little bit more difficult to get into the at death's door range. Aside from if you're just trying to take a bunch of damage to get to that point. But like I said, anyways, I actually really like this one. And of course, this one also located in Lumiere from the Gestural Merchant Kribappa. Next up is going to be Gradient Fighter. I like the stat bonuses here. 182 speed, 18% crit rate, 25% increased damage with gradient attacks. Now, I don't really do gradient attacks that much in this game, but one person that does benefit a lot from these is Mael, right? So oftentimes she isn't in a stance, or I have her using some sort of ability that drops her into stanceless or maybe defensive or whatever. But of course, using the first gradient attack of her like Virtuous Strike will put her into Virtuous. So getting a little bit of extra damage on that definitely is a good thing, and a fairly decent Lumina point cost here at only 5. So I actually do really like this one. And again, for somebody like Mael, who I do use gradient attacks on often, I do find this to be useful. Next up is Faster Than Strong. I don't really like this one. Bad stat increases here, but it says always play twice in a row but deal 50% less damage. It's just not good, right? Because it's, again, I've said this before, but it's so easy to get Cheater in Act 3. So this just ends up being completely worthless. I mean, unless you want to somehow challenge yourself and only deal 50% less damage, I don't know. But I just don't see the use case for this. So, at least, to be fair, again, to it, at least only a 10 Lumina point cost here. So significantly lower Lumina point cost, certainly, than Cheater, being, 1/4 of the cost. But, 50% less damage, that's like, again, unless you're trying to like challenge yourself in some way, it just seems like why bother. But also, if you're trying to challenge yourself, just don't use this. So anyways, that is Faster Than Strong. All right, so moving on to some more of the stuff. Actually, probably should have had Auto Powerful. No, I guess that kind of makes sense. Auto Powerful is located within the Floating Cemetery from the White Chalier. Probably saying that wrong, but there, let me see. I'm in the wrong spot. Here we are. Auto Powerful. Great Pictos. Apply Powerful for 3 turns on battle start. Also, the stats on this are pretty good, right? 241 speed, 20% crit rate. Only a 10 Lumina point cost. I think that's very good for how good this buff is. And of course, there is another Pictos that goes along with it, which is Longer Powerful, as well as Greater Powerful. So, of course, increasing the damage on Powerful with those other Pictos, and also obviously the duration. So you can get your Powerful duration up to 5 turns, and I think it would be like, gosh, is it a 15? I can't remember if Greater Powerful is 15% or only 10. I think it's 15 though, which would be like a 40% damage increase total. So. Very, very good Pictos. But again, found in the Floating Cemetery. That's that White Chalier quest, right? You basically choose a weapon for it, and then battle it, and then kind of do what it wants, right? Which is, of course, it wants you to end its existence. So anyways, yeah, that is Auto Powerful. Next up is going to be Base Shield. So Base Shield is, there we are. located on the chosen path. So basically you have to defeat all five, I think it's 5 of the paintings inside there, and it will open up a room in the back, and that gets you base shield. Great stats here, speed and crit rate. +1 shield if not affected by any shield on turn start. That's great, right? So, you know, I like in medias res. Of course, that gives everybody 3 shields at the start of battle. But if you are taking hits, of course, and lose all of those shields, the base shield will, you know, give you 1 shield at the beginning of your turn. So basically, it's 1 free hit that you can take for every turn. So again, really, really like this one. 20 Lumina point cost. Probably does seem about appropriate. You know, as usual, I always wish that it would be a little bit lower, but 20 does seem like a pretty good cost to pay for something that's, you know, this useful. So next up is going to be Greater Slow. Excuse me. Right, Greater Slow. 15% to slow speed reduction. This is located, of course, on Sky Island. You know, for somebody like Lune, who has a very easy time applying slow, as well as Minoko, this can be useful, right? And slow, certainly, unfortunately, though, I would say is you know, more useful, of course, during the boss battles. But that, even that said, though, it still can be good for random encounters. Something like, you know, towards the end of the game, especially again in the in terms of Act 3, you know, everything has a lot of health, and so, you know, every once in a while the battles take a little bit longer. So again, you know, I think Greater Slow can be pretty good. Honestly, though, I wish this would have been available in Act 2, because I think we would have got a lot more use out of it. But yeah, definitely a decent Pictos for. I would say for Lune especially, but that's as someone who uses Lune essentially every battle, especially in Act 3. But next up is going to be Draining Cleanse. So let's find, oops, going the wrong way here. So here's Draining Cleanse. This is located in the Reacher. So actually this whole section is going to be, of course, Pictos that are located there in the Reacher. It says consume 1 AP to prevent status effects application if possible. That actually is pretty cool, especially if you're, you know, or I should say, especially in certain battles where you know you're going to be affected by, you know, status effects more often. And kind of one neat thing about Draining Cleanse, of course, is that it can just prevent everything, right? So like, of course, you've got anti-stun, you've got anti-freeze, anti-burn, and all those individual ones, but of course, having all of those equipped are, you know, is pretty expensive in terms of Lumina point cost. So this can kind of cover all of your bases. Of course, the issue here, though, is it's going to eat one of your AP to prevent that status effect. But very, very good Pictos. I would say more so if you're, you know, having trouble dodging and parrying, again, as someone who you know, goes through the game like that, not taking any sort of hits or damage like that. I don't find this one useful just because, again, most times status effects are being applied if you take a hit. Of course, there's always things like the Tessor or the Chromatic Velour that will apply status effects regardless, but also, unfortunately, you know, like the Tessor is only located in Act 2. So, again, unfortunately, that battle is happening before we have access to this. But, you know, of course, you know, later on in the game, this could be a bit more useful. Next up is going to be Charging Counter. If I can find this. Here we are. Oops. Ow. Hit the wrong button there. All right, here's Charging Counter. Stats, not so wild about, of course, health and defense, not something that I find that useful, but 10% of a gradient charge on counterattack, that's okay. You know, I do like, again, using the gradient attacks, especially on someone like Mael. That's not to say that it's not good or they aren't useful on other characters. It's just that's specifically who I tend to use them on. But you know, of course, getting extra gradient charges here based off of counters is a good thing. 10 Lumina point cost, though, is a bit steep. I would have liked to see that at about a 5, but again, can't always get what we want, right? So decent Lumina here to be using. Next up is charging attack. 50% of a gradient charge on base attack. Now, of course, there are many, many Pictos related to the base attack, and, you know, this isn't a bad one, certainly. 266 speed, or 22% crit rate on this, also located in the Reacher. Definitely think that this is probably, you know, at least somewhat useful as someone like maybe like Verso if you're still using the Dualiso or something like that, right? Because of course that is oriented towards using a lot of base attacks. But you know, again, I would say probably more useful for boss battles because again, you're not really generating a whole lot in terms of gradient charges on random encounters, but again, certainly useful for certain fights. Anyways, next up is going to be protecting tint. Let's zip on down here. This one is located also in the Reacher. There we are. Healing tints also apply shell. Again, probably okay for somebody like Lune, or whatever. If there's someone that you plan on using healing tints more often with. Decent cost here, 5 Lumina points. That's not too bad. Thanks, dude on motorcycle. Anyways, health and defense again, not a wild or not real, happy about those stats here, but again, definitely, or I should say, potentially useful for someone like Lune or whoever you're going to be doing a bit of healing with. But yeah, anyways, next up is going to be anti-blight. This is also located in the Reacher from the Gestural Merchant Aragol. Anti-blight. I don't find this to be useful at all. Again, though, as someone who parries, the blight status effect just doesn't actually hurt you if you're able to parry, right? Yes, it reduces your maximum health, but again, if you're able to parry things anyway, then that doesn't really hurt you. So, 10 Lumina point cost is pretty expensive for this, but if you struggle a little bit more for parrying, this might not be a bad thing, again, for something like the Chromatic Velour battle. I'm probably not saying that correct, but that's the Chromatic that you fight in Frozen Hearts. So, can be, again, useful, at least for that battle, if you, I guess, kind of wait on it. Wait to do it, I guess, until you've got this, right? But anyways, next up is going to be Exposing Break. Located in the same spot, of course, the Reacher from the Gestural Merchant Aragol. If I can find it here. There we are, Exposing Break. Not a great, stat bonuses here, but apply Defenseless on Break. That's okay. Again, I would say probably more useful for things like the mimes, right? Because, of course, you really have to get them broken to do any sort of decent damage to them. And, of course, then the defenseless debuff is going to allow you to do even like 25% more damage on top of that. So, pretty good for, again, I would say very, very specific battles. But as is my my issue with most of the things regarding Break just doesn't happen that often, at least from my experience in this game. So, you're just not going to get a whole lot out of this. So that's going to be, again, a very, very specific case, I would say, probably, in terms of dealing with mimes. But also, unfortunately, not that many mimes at the end of the game, although I suppose there's the, and of course I'm going to forget the name of it, but the one where you have to fight the mimes with each of the characters. So, all right, anyways, next up is going to be Charging Weakness. Same location here. There we are, Charging Weakness. So again, same location. The Reacher from the Gestural Merchant Aragol. Good stat combo here. Speed and crit rates. 15% of a gradient charge on hitting a weakness once per turn. Pretty decent. I would say probably going to be more useful for you on someone like Lune, who is able to use all kinds of different, the elemental attacks and have a higher chance then of hitting something's weakness. Only 5 Lumina point cost, so that's not too bad, but I'll be honest, I never use this. And again, mostly just because, A, I don't use gradient attacks that much, but Yeah, I think just I think the use case here is too thin to make that great. And then last for the Reacher, and of course the Jestral Merchant Aragol, is going to be Healing Boon. So let's bounce down here. 15% HP on applying a buff. You know, I guess that might be okay for certain characters. Again, I've got an issue here with it. It seems like it's a little bit too specific here. So, you know, for someone like Lune who does a lot of heals, then this probably makes some sense. I'm sorry, somebody who applies buffs. So like CL, right? CL has a lot of different buffs that she can apply. You know, sort of verso, right? You can do powerful for your characters. Minoko may be a good candidate for this, right? Can keep him a little bit healthy because he does have so many of his abilities that are able to apply buffs to your team. So potentially there, but it seems a little too expensive. 10 is a bit, I feel like a bit much for, you know, a fairly minor heal. I think I would have liked to see maybe a 5 Lumina point cost on that instead. But yeah, not something that I ever found useful as someone who doesn't take damage. Next up is Critical Stun. So Critical Stun is located in the Sacred River from the Jestral Merchant there. Let's see, critical. So there we are, Critical Stun. So 100% crit chance on hitting a stun target. I don't find this useful at all. You know, it's just so easy between your luck stat and the Pictos in the game to already have a 100% crit chance. So, you know, the use case for this, again, similar to some of my other criticisms, is just too thin, right? You have to have already filled up the break gauge. You have to have already broken it, right, so that it's stunned. Okay, now you've got the 100% crit chance. It's just, it's not a good way, it's not a good Pictos because of that. I like the crit rate on it, but the defense combo, not something that I'm interested. 5 Lumina point cost, also, again, too much here. This probably could have been like a junk Pictos that you maybe could have equipped if it was only like 1 Lumina point, right? But it's not, so it's not, I don't think that this one's good at all. Energizing Rush. Let's see here. There we are. So Energizing Rush is found in the Endless Tower. This is Stage 2, Trial 3, so fairly early on. Give 2 AP on applying Rush. Again, you know, good for certain characters. I think Minoko is actually able to use Rush with, I want to say it's like Luster Slashes or something like that. And then, of course, CL is able to apply Rush as well. So, you know, maybe good for a couple of characters, but I don't think that this is good enough to merit a 10 Lumina point cost. So not a fan of this one. Also, stat, of course, has defense here, which I don't find to be that useful, at least, again, for me. Charging Critical is the next one here. You can find it. Charging Critical. There we go. So this is Endless Tower, again, Stage 5, Trial 3. Defense and crit rate, huge crit rate increase. I do like that, but not as wild about the defense there. 20% of a gradient charge on critical hit once per turn. That's a huge jump for just a single crit. So I do think that that's probably worth it. 10 seems a little bit too high on the Lumina point cost. I could have seen maybe a 5 on this, but again, that's a significant increase and much more than, you know, any of the other you know, sort of charging type things that we've talked about so far. So and again, very easy to trigger that on a critical hit. I mean, you know, again, as somebody who builds crit, very, very easy to actually get that to be effective. So anyways, next up is going to be Critical Weakness. Let me see, here we are. Critical Weakness is located, I lost my spot here, there we go. Endless Tower, Stage 6, Trial 3. Great combination of stats here, speed and crit rate. 25% increased critical chance on weakness. That's all right. I do like that. Yeah, critical weakness. Yeah, so I don't know. Let me back up. Charging critical. I forgot to mention this. Charging critical. There we are. So the first one is located in the Endless Tower, Stage 5, Trial 3. The upgrade to the level 31, that's found within Renoir's draft. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Anyways, back to critical weakness. Again, 25% increased crit chance on weakness. Again, I don't find this useful. I just think it's better to get your crit chance from other places, right? It's annoying, right? Because it's great. Like, okay, 25% crit chance is a decent increase, but only for hitting a weakness. That just doesn't seem like that's going to be something that we want to count on, right? So again, I'd rather get my crit rate from my luck stat and my Pictos, right? So I just set up to get 100% crit rate regardless. But again, I do like the speed and crit rate as far as the the stats here, and then the 5 Lumina point cost. Okay, but again, for a ability that I don't think is good, right? I think that it's better to get your crit rate somewhere else. Next up is Rush on Powerful. So this one's going to be a ways down here. Here we are, Rush on Powerful. So this is located in the Endless Tower, Stage 9, Trial 3. Great stats here. Speed, 639, 35% crit rate. Apply Rush on applying a Powerful. Again, this would be, potentially good for a couple of the characters. I'm thinking specifically Verso, because of course he is able to apply Powerful with one of his buffs. And of course, also, so then he would be giving Rush to your characters as well. Fairly decent Lumina point cost as well there at a 10. So I think just kind of generally overall, pretty decent Pictos. That said, though, I never really used Powerful from Verso himself. I usually rely on other things like either Auto Powerful, SOS Powerful would be not great, but another way to potentially apply this. But yeah, I think, again, just because of the way that I play, I never found this one to be that useful. Again, aside from the actual stats being pretty phenomenal. Next up is going to be Greater Powerless. Never used this one at all. There we are. So this is located in the Endless Tower. Also, I'm sorry, Rush on Powerful also has the level 31 upgrade, and that's in Renoir's drafts from the Jestro Merchant Grower. But anyways, again, back to Greater Powerless. Level 30 version here, found in the Endless Tower, stage 10, excuse me, Trial 3. 15% to Powerless damage reduction. Again, as someone who parries and doesn't take hits, this wasn't useful at all to me. I guess, of course, maybe it's obvious my thoughts on this one is not useful. Also, a 15 Lumina point cost. That's way too expensive for what you're getting out of this. So again, not something that I ever used. Next up is going to be Combo Attack 3. All right, so here we are. Combo Attack 3 is from the Dark Jestral Arena, winning the 3rd round. Potentially good if you do a lot of base attacking. I don't do that, or didn't do that a lot in the game. That said, though, again, I found this probably the most useful for if you're blowing all of your AP essentially on doing free aim shots, and then of course once you have 0 AP left, then you can only do a base attack. So of course, combo attack 1, 2, and 3 would allow you to do 3 extra swings with that base attack. So that really can add up, of course. Definitely a good ability if you're doing a lot of base attacks. And of course, as always, there are so many Pictos related to doing base attacks that you would get some benefit out of. So honestly, a really good Pictos. It's just again, for the way that I play, I never used it a whole lot. But anyways, let's move on here and get into the Endless Night Sanctuary stuff. So that is going to be Gradient Break. There we are. Oh, this should be Gradient. Oh, there's Gradient Break and Gradient Breaker. Well, that's a little confusing. Anyways, so Gradient Break is located in the Endless Sanctuary. Great stats here. Speed, of course, and crit rate. Excuse me. 5 Lumina point cost, that's pretty decent, but 50% of a gradient charge on breaking a target. Again, Same issue that I've got with this as I have with anything else that's related to breaking, is breaking doesn't happen enough in this game, in my opinion, for these things to be useful. So I don't like this because of that, right? Like generally in any battle, I'm only ever breaking something once. So I just, again, don't find this useful. Next up is going to be marking break. Here's marking break. Apply mark on break. Again, same issue that I've got with this one as any other one. You know, things just don't break enough to make things like this useful. You know, and especially only like getting mark out of it. Like, okay, great. You know, one maybe two hits if you've got the other Pictos related, right? Where you know, break doesn't immediately get used up. But you're just not, in my opinion, getting enough out of this. To be fair, though, great stats here with the speed and crit rate. So something that might be useful to actually just have equipped as a Pictos. And then, of course, only a 5 Lumina point cost here. So I can get behind that at least. But I just think, again, the use case for this is too thin to merit use. Next up is going to be Shell on Rush. There we are. Apply Shell on applying Rush. So again, you know, if you've got a character that you are buffing with a lot, maybe this would be useful for you. I didn't ever use this, but you know, defense and speed, meh, pretty meh in terms of stats here. Although again, I do appreciate the speed, but didn't get much use out of the defense stat in this game, as again someone who parries constantly. But the 10 Lumina point cost, maybe that's good if you've got a character that is, you know, applying Shell a lot. So I will at least say that. Where are we at here? Yeah, so this also similar to marking break, and actually the rest of the rest of the Pictos are all coming in. I'm sorry, the rest of the Pictos from Endless Night Sanctuary are all going to be coming from Anthony Poe. Which is a funny name for a Gestural, but you know, that's kind of what we expect, right? So yeah, that is where that's coming from. Next up is going to be Powerful Heal. Right there we are. You know, stats meh, health not that useful to me, but speed I can get behind that. Healing and ally also applies powerful for 1 turn. So again, good for a character maybe like Lune who. Or CL who does a bit of healing, but for me, never got any use out of this. Next up is Powerful Shield. Great stats here, like the speed and crit rate combo. 10% increased damage per shield point on self. Really, hang on a second here. Yeah, that is Powerful Shield. Jeez, this is great. The effect itself. Of course, this works really, really well within Medias Res. Of course, that Pictos is going to be applying 3 shields on you at battle start. So, of course, then this would be giving you a 30% increased damage. Really, really like this one. Very, very cheap Lumina point cost too, at only 5. So really like this one. Highly recommend using this. Of course, coming from the Gestural Merchant Anthony Poe in Endless Sanctuary. Next up is going to be Protecting Attack. All right, so same location. I won't keep saying Anthony Poe's name, I promise. Gain Shell for 1 turn on base attack. That can be okay, and especially because then you could trigger, you know, some other things like Powerful on Shell, right? So, of course, also synergizing really well with all of the rest of the Pictos related to, or Lumina abilities related to doing base attacks in this game. Health and defense, not a fan of those stats on this, but also only a 10 Lumina point cost to do, you know, and again, a buff that I don't really love, but again, you can trigger some other stuff because of that. So definitely some interesting combos that you can do with this. Next up is going to be Charging Mark. Let's go find this one. Charging Mark. Here we are. So again, located in the Endless Night Sanctuary from the Gestural Merchant there. A great combination of stats, right? Speed and crit rate. 20% of a gradient charge on hitting a marked target once per turn. Again, I don't find this to be that useful, mostly because I don't use gradient attacks that much. But also, of course, you would need to be marking things. Use case for this is just too thin, in my opinion, to merit use. Next up is going to be accelerating tint. Oops, there we are. Accelerating tint. Here we are. All right, so same location again. Endless Night Sanctuary from the Jester Merchant. Healing tints also apply rush. So again, kind of one that I always think of Lune as someone who I like to, or I view as one of the game's better healers, right? Is if, of course, if you're using a tint, you might as well also apply that rush. Fairly decent Lumina point cost here at only a 5. Stats, of course, health and speed, not my favorite combo, but yeah, a decent Lumina point cost for what you're getting out of this. And of course, also applying rush, then you can apply some other buffs as long as you have the Pictos or the Lumina equipped. So, all right, next up is going to be the Flying Manor stuff, Pictos, and these are, man, there's a lot of them here. So these ones are starting at about looks like level 28. Most of these. First one is going to be protecting shots. Here we are. Wait. Oh, I've got this way wrong. Oh, this is powerful. No wonder. God, I was like, why is that so low level? I've got all these at like a 28. Yeah, here we are. Protecting shots. Health and defense combo, not wild about that. 20% chance to gain shell on free aim shots. So again, similar to what I've said with some of the other Pictoses, you can combo off of this, right? Because of course you've got like powerful on shell. So a chance to gain a bunch of different buffs just by using free aim shots. Typically, I use free aim shots almost entirely for random encounters. So I definitely think that this is certainly useful for those. But again, more so if you are you've got some of those other combo ones, right? So like again, a powerful on shell would be maybe useful to be using with this, but. All right, next up is going to be Energetic Healer. Let's go down for this one. Energetic Healer. There we are. Haven't learned this one yet, which doesn't suggest to me that it's something that I was that impressed with. 2 AP on healing an ally once per turn. That can be really good for certain characters that do healing. Of course, CL comes to mind in Lune. Not a good combination of stats in my opinion, although the speed is pretty decent on that. Just not wild about that defense. But yeah, something obviously coming from the Flying Manor. Next one is going to be Charging Alteration. That's going to be back up this way. Again, coming from the Flying Manor here, 10% of a gradient charge on applying a buff, 1 per turn. Again, that can be okay for someone like CL, or a bunch of the characters can apply buffs, or actually like maybe literally every single one of them. I can't remember about Lune, though. Can't remember if she actually applies any buffs. Certainly, if I can't remember it, that means I never did it. Anyways, yeah, like I said, probably okay for certain characters. CL really comes to mind. I think that she's like kind of like the game's, or one of the game's premier buffers. Maybe Minoko, just because so many of his attacks will also apply buffs. That said, though, 10% of a gradient charge, that's not very much. And also, as someone who doesn't really use gradient charges that much, I wouldn't find that to be all that useful. Next up, though, is Energizing Stun. I've got this located in the Flying Manor from a paint cage. Energizing Stun. I feel like I'm close. There we are. Great stats here. Speed and crit rate. I always like that. Plus 1 AP on hitting a stun target with a skill. Okay. 10 Lumina point cost. Probably could have been a little bit lower for how often you're going to get use out of this, right? Because the reality is, and I've said this a few times, things don't break that often. And so, 1 AP for hitting a stun target with a skill, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's good enough to bother using. And again, especially for like a 10 Lumina point cost, maybe if that was like 1, I would maybe consider equipping that, right? Because it's like, yeah, why not at that point? You're not going to be really using it that often, but when you do, all right, fine, great. All right, so that's Energizing Stun. Next up is going to be Painter. Oh, I love this one. So definitely a very, very good... Oops, I went too far. Here's Painter. Converts all physical damage to void damage. Not only does this thing have really good stats, but that Lumina ability is fantastic and definitely worth the 10 Lumina point cost on that. Physical damage is sometimes resisted, right? So there's definitely a few enemies in the game that will... take a lot less damage from physicals. And so converting that physical damage to void damage instead makes a lot of sense. Maybe it's a little bit more niche because, not everything is going to be resisting physical, but I do think that this one is very good, especially for those, some of the Avex come to mind. I think a lot of those Avex are, going to be resistant to physical. So, again, I do like the Painter. Pictos. Next up is going to be Empowering Break. Again, this is still Flying Manor. Let's zip up. I feel like I went too far. Nope, I didn't. Empowering Break. Here we are. Great stats here. Speed and crit rate, of course. Again, powerful on breaking a target. I think that actually this one might be useful. Yeah, it might be useful. Mostly because of that Lumina point cost, right? Only 3. That's fine. Again, as someone who, and I've said this multiple times, of course, you don't break that much in this game, and so you're not getting much out of the Lumina abilities that are related to breaking. So that said, though, powerful is a great buff, and definitely something worth, I think, equipping, because again, that cost is just so cheap. So pretty decent there. All right, so that is Empowering Break. Next up is going to be Accelerating Shots. All right, so again, located in the Flying Manor. Going to be up this way. Trying to make sure that I don't skip over any. Accelerating. There we are. Health and Defense, not a great combo. 20% chance, though, to gain Rush on free aim shots. That's good, right? Of course, there's a bunch of other things related to not only free aim shots, but also, related to actually applying Rush. Also, only 3 Lumina point cost. I think that this is definitely worth it. More so, I would say, at least in my experience, for doing random encounters, because that is when I use free aim shots most of the time. So, definitely something that I would say is pretty decent. Next up is going to be Gradient Breaker. Let's go find this one. Gradient Breaker. Here we are. All right, so this is, of course, also... Oh, I should say Accelerating Shots, located in Flying Manor from the Jestro Merchant Fusoka. Same with Gradient Breaker here. Again, Jestro Merchant Fusoka. Love the stat combination here. Speed and crit, of course. 50% increased break damage with Gradient attacks. Again, in my opinion, useful... to a very small degree, and I would say really only with my L, because that's who I use my gradient attacks with probably 9 out of 10 times. 5 Lumina point cost, probably worth it. So, not a terrible Lumina ability. Next up is Break Specialist. Boom, 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 boom. Break Specialist. There we are. Same location, Flying Manor, Jestro Merchant, Fusoka. Health and speed combo. I like the speed, not so much the health. Break damage is increased by 50%, but base damage is reduced by 20. Maybe there are fights in the game that, if your weapon damage is really low and you're just not doing much damage anyway, or, something that's going to be an extremely long battle, this might be useful, but I never found it useful. Again, as someone who, if I remember correctly, there was only man, I can only really think of like mimes that lived long enough to maybe get broken twice. So I just, again, don't think that this is really worth it. So again, not something that I ever really used. 1 Lumina point cost though, great, right? So maybe somebody that's not really doing that great damage anyway, maybe this would be useful for. But again, only on a fight where I would say is going to last long enough to, break more than once. So again, not something that I ever use, but I could maybe see there might be a use case somewhere for that. Next up is Slowing Break. Same location, Flying Manor, Gesture Merchant, Fusoka. Apply slow on break. Again, same issue that I've got with anything else related to break, is it just doesn't happen enough. That said, though, this one may be worth using, mostly for the cost, right? Only 5 Lumina points. The only issue here also, though, that I've got with this one is if you're using somebody like Lune, like I do, who I'm oftentimes using Crippling Tsunami, the thing is already slowed, so... I guess this would reapply slow, but I don't know. I just, again, I think that the use case here is too slim to really get much use out of this. Next up is Powerful Mark. There we are. All right, so same location here, Flying Manor, but not from the Jester Merchant, where we are done with anything coming from him. Great stats on this one. 779 speed on the level 28 version. 16% crit rate. Gain powerful on hitting a marked enemy. I do find this more useful for random encounters, right? Because I'm oftentimes using free aim shots, and thus, applying, of course, also using marking shots then. So sometimes, of course, marking the enemy, and then bam, the powerful mark is going to trigger once you hit that marked enemy. So that's not the only time that it's useful, of course. If you're ever, doing a boss battle and you're marking things, then, this would be also triggering as well. But I really like this one, mostly for the stats, but, pretty decent little cost on that as well, right, as only a 5 Lumina point cost. Next up is going to be Energizing Shots. Where are we at here? Energizing Shots. All right, so located in the Flying Manor. 20% chance to gain 1 AP on free aim shot. That's awesome, right? This is really, really good. Most of the time, if I'm doing free aim shots, of course, it's during random encounters, but that's not to say that there aren't, some bosses where this would be useful as well, because, again, there's so many things that can trigger from using free aim shots. So, just getting an extra AP, that's great, right? That's basically getting you an extra free aim shot whenever that happens. Also, it doesn't say only once per turn, so potentially this could trigger, and does trigger more than once in a chain of free aim shots. So very, very, very good here. Also a 10 Lumina point cost. I definitely think that that's worth it. And then lastly, for the Flying Manor, that's going to be Clair's Life. And that's from Clair herself, right? The actual battle versus her. Now, again, as someone who parries all the time, I didn't find this one useful, but it certainly can be. I mean, this is huge, right? For one thing, 5,591 health is pretty gigantic. And then on turn start, if no damage taken since last turn, recover 100% health. So as long as you can live a full turn without taking damage, if you took, a prior damage in the battle, you're going to completely recover all of your health. This is fantastic. Again, I haven't tested this out, but I assume this works really good with Cheater. Or at least hopefully it works with Cheater, right? So, of course, your turn would start, you do whatever you want to do, and then Cheater triggers, right? So you get the initial, or the turn afterwards. I'm assuming then that you'll recover all your health. I haven't actually tested that out. Because the playing, but I just don't know if this triggers on kind of what's essentially an extra turn. So I can't say for sure on that. But again, it's not, someone who tries to go through the game without taking any damage. This one wasn't useful to me. So that is why I haven't done the testing potentially that I should have on this one. But also 30 Lumina point cost is pretty steep on that, but. again, potentially could be very, very good. Shame, though, that you would get this from what I would say is one of the more difficult battles from, Act 3, but, it is what it is, right? So, again, potentially very, very good. All right, so next up is going to be Combo Attack 2. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Combo Attack 2 could be really good, and actually this is pretty something that you can get really, really early on, but I've got it way down here because it's a level 29 Pictos, right? So basically, though, at the beginning of Act 3, you could actually go back and get this right away because, of course, it's located at the top of the monolith from the Chromatic Clair Obscur battle. But similar to the other combo attacks, I think this is very good. For me, especially more useful for random encounters because, again, I do a lot of free aim shots and then follow up with combo attack at the end. But great stats here, 836 speed. That's a lot of speed to be getting off of a Pictos. And then 16% crit rate. Pretty steep cost, though, 20 Lumina points to get that equipped. But yeah, right in the middle, of course, of Combo Attack 1 and 2 in terms of cost. So, pretty decent Pictos. Next up is going to be the one. Let's find that. I don't find this one to be useful, other than if you want to be flashy and look cool. Where is this thing at? Oh, didn't go down far enough. Here we are, the one. So max health is reduced to 1. Excuse me. Again, if you want to look cool and do your battles, running around at 1 HP, then great. The only other useful thing out of this, of course, is the crit rate being 108%. So, of course, you can, if you wanted to, you could do something like drop your luck down. I wouldn't recommend that because you're getting, speed out of that as well. But you could drop your luck, and then, of course, not equip any other crit rate related Pictos. And still be rocking 108%. But, 1 Lumina point cost to look cool. That's kind of how I look at this Pictos. And again, essentially a 100% crit rate there if you either feel like you need it or want it, is pretty okay. But of course, also you either need to be shielded or be able to parry and dodge because otherwise you're toast. So. Not something that I ever got any use out of, but certainly has some very slim use cases. Next up is going to be Quick Break. Let's see if we can find. There we are, Quick Break. So this is located within Renoir's drafts. Great combination of stats here, of course, speed and crit rate. Play again on breaking a target. My issue with this, of course, as always, is you don't break enough. And also, Cheater is very, in my opinion anyway, very easy to actually obtain in Act 3. What this does have going for it, though, again, is the stats, but also a 3 Lumina point cost is very cheap, right? But again, as someone who basically always gets Cheater in Act 2, I don't find this useful, but also only on breaking, which is probably only going to happen once, maybe twice in a battle. So not something that I really like, but yeah. Anyways, next up, or I should say lastly, it's Charging Burn. Can't spell here. There's Charging Tint, there's Charging Burn. Also located in Renoir's drafts. Don't like the combination here, health and speed, but it's not horrible. It's a pretty decent chunk of both stats. 20% of a gradient charge on applying burn once per turn. That's okay. Again, unfortunately, I don't really use gradient attacks that often, so I wouldn't find this to be all that useful. 10 Lumina point cost seems a little bit like too much, though, as well. I think maybe 5 would have been more appropriate for this, but if you do find yourself using gradient charges a lot, then let her rip, and especially on somebody who has an easy time applying burn, like Mael or Lune come to mind. A decent way to really charge up your gradient. So that is going to be it, though. That is all of the Pictos for Act 3. Definitely some powerful ones coming out of Act 3, which obviously seems pretty appropriate, but That's going to be it for this one. As always, I hope the guide was helpful, and thanks for watching.